This program is brought to you by Real Estimate. Get a free real estimate of your home's value today on the realestate.com.au app.
Welcome back. There were about 1,800 auctions across Australia on Saturday. The clearance rate remained steady at 63.2%. Sydney held about 650 auctions with a clearance rate of about 58%. There were a further 1,800 private sales in New South Wales. Melbourne held 715 auctions with a clearance rate of almost 71%. There were also roughly 1,300 private sales in Victoria. Brisbane held 85 auctions with a clearance rate of 72% or so. There were also 1,040 private sales. Adelaide held 59 auctions with a clearance rate of about 81%. There were also 338 private sales. Canberra held 40 auctions with a clearance rate of 70%. There were 113 private sales in the ACT. Perth held 7 auctions with a clearance rate of about 57%, but there were roughly 570 private sales across Western Australia. And for more on property, I'm joined by Flaherty from REA Group. And thanks so much for your time. Auction clearance rates look pretty strong for this time of year.
They were pretty strong, and actually at 63%, that's the strongest clearance rate we've seen in 2 years now. It's also pretty notable to think that across a lot of our states, we're seeing clearance rates above that 70% level. So a lot of demand out there, properties selling very well.
Yeah, where are customers looking at the moment? Where are the hot spots around Australia?
Well, it's interesting because even though we've got pretty strong clearance rates, the total number of homes for sale is down around 10% from the same time last year. But if we look around the country, we've actually seen the total number of people searching to buy properties on realestate.com.au up about 7% year on year. Interestingly as well, the total number looking to rent is up about 11%. We're not seeing the same in every market though. Interestingly, the strongest performing markets, South Australia, WA, Queensland, have actually seen a decrease in year-on-year searches, whereas the other states have actually recorded some very strong rises.
So there's a lot of people basically lurking on the website looking and potentially waiting for more stock to come onto the market later this year when things really start to pick up again.
Look, I think there are a lot of people out there who are actively looking for property. We know that the buyer journey is taking longer than it has in the past, but I think the fact that, we are very likely to see an interest rate cut next week, that could trigger more activity as well.
Yeah, we've obviously had 2 rate cuts already this year, and it looks like pretty much a lock for rates to be cut next week as well. So how have prices been tracking over the past calendar year so far?
Look, we're seeing property prices sitting at a new record high around the country. Depending on the market you look at, we've seen some very strong growth. The median price of a capital city home house is now at that $1 million mark, and we're continuing to see new records broken around the country. I think if interest rates do come down further next week, and of course, if we look at the demand insights that we have in terms of how many people are looking for property, what consumer sentiment is doing, I think that the market's going to remain really, really strong throughout the remainder of this year.
Okay, so property prices basically at record highs, but what about the rental market? How are rents going right now as well?
Yeah, look, we did see the rate at which rents were growing slow down over the back half of last year, but we've now started to see that pick up a little bit. It's nowhere near the record growth that we were experiencing, back in 2022, 2023. But we know that population growth remains extremely strong. We're probably going to exceed the government's own forecasts for population growth. That's continuing to add pressure to rental demand. And if we look at the total number of people searching, again, an 11% year-on-year rise in people searching for properties to rent. To some extent, that could be driven by low vacancy rates, which means that people have to spend longer looking and searching for rental properties. But it is a clear sign that there are a lot of people out there looking to rent.
And then just finally, the construction sector. Is it starting to build more properties around Australia, or is it still lagging a bit?
Well, we are lagging. There are some positive signs that things are picking up a bit, but if we continue on the trajectory that we're already on, we're looking at around a 20% shortfall in the government's target of 1.2 million houses or homes. And I should add to that that 1.2 million new homes is really what we need to keep the ratio of supply of homes to the population steady from where we are. Now, with population growth continuing to outpace forecasts, that's likely to mean that this 1.2 million new homes, which we are unlikely to achieve, would already be be below what we would actually need.
And Flaherty, great to have you on the show.
Thank you.